Every girl deserves to shine. With that mission, Rubies make form-fitting clothes for trans girls. We have Jamie with us today, who's the founder of Rubies. Thanks for joining in, Jamie.
Thanks for having me.
The story behind Rubies, to me personally, Jamie, is very uplifting. It would be, really nice to hear directly from you as to how and why you started Rubies in the first place.
For sure. Yeah, I started the business really out of a need for my daughter. So my daughter, her name is Ruby. She's 12 years old, but she was born a boy. And but since the very early age of, say, 3, she was always expressing her identity in a feminine way. By about the age of 9, she had decided, along with our support, to transition to a girl, meaning she changed her pronouns and started, wearing clothing and, I would say, expressing herself through clothing, like through feminine clothing. And in the early days, we, when it comes to kind of sports, we would, so for swimming, we would put her in board shorts, and for gymnastics, we would be putting her in sweatpants, and she was sort of reluctantly going along with it, but always at the same time wondering that why she has to wear clothes that were different than her friends. Right. And in 2019, in the summer, we were going on vacation, and actually leading up to that, she had expressed to me that she wanted to wear a bikini like her friends. And at the time we're like, okay, fine. So we went to Walmart and bought her a bikini, and, she was perfectly happy wearing that. And, from our perspective, it was fine in, Toronto and, our other places we were with our friends. And we knew it was sort of a safe environment for her. I was really worried about that upcoming vacation. So I started to look around to see what was out there. And basically, I had bought every product that was possibly out there, and some of them worked okay. But what I found is that at the end, there was a real gap in terms of being able to find clothing for design specifically for kids. So most of the clothing was designed for adults and scaled down. Mm-hmm. And then there was also, the products didn't feel like regular swimwear. They felt like something that was, kind of a special thing that you had to really think about when you put on. And so, I had just wound down working at a previous startup where I was actually kind of in the process of transitioning out. And I started to really explore this idea and really with a goal to create clothing or design clothing for trans girls that was designed specifically for them, for kids. Right. And where there's a branding that would resonate with them. And so that's really, that was sort of the impetus for starting Rubis.
Perfect. That's a heartening story. And from what I've been reading till now, Rubis is not just restricted to, form-fitting clothing for trans girls. I think you're trying to build a bigger ecosystem that would help trans girls and their families have conversations and make new friends. So how do you plan to do that exactly?
Yeah, so there's many ways that I'm trying to sort of extend, what I'm doing to like be able to provide support to these families, and there's a number of different ways. I would say the primary one, really, where I'm trying to actually connect families, is through my Facebook group that I've started. So I have a number of families on there that are really my, I guess you could say, my guinea pigs. So what I did is at the very, very early days, I posted a prototype I had on Facebook in a few groups for parents with trans kids. And I basically said that I was looking for families to test out my designs, free of charge. I just wanted their feedback. And through that, now I have about 50 families on there. And so, and that's also, become a vehicle to allow me to help support the families. Any questions they've had, I've also connected, if I see that, say there's 2 families, in the Sacramento area, I've been able to connect them. But we also have a program where We're trying to, in every package that we send out of Rubies, we include a message. And so what we're trying to do is raise awareness in the schools by running basically postcard writing campaigns. Now, a lot of these plans were pre-COVID, so we were just starting to roll out these programs where we actually started in Ruby's a program at Ruby's school called the Rainbow Club. And these are programs that are sort of popping up all over North America, where kids get together and just like to discuss how they can support the LGBT community. And so, I've created a program where kids can write these postcards. I take them and then put them in the packages. And then the third way is really through, and it's something I haven't fully executed on, but is in my plans, is really to provide resources for parents. Most parents are going through a very similar journey that we've gone through in terms of kind of the discovery and being able to really understand what your child is going through and how you can best support them. And there's a lot of like kind of key steps and inflection points along that journey. But I found that the material that's out there is very difficult. It's sort of scattered. I feel it's also written by, a lot of people with great intentions, but not necessarily the creative and design experience to create kind of engaging resources. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I really want to focus on going forward, is to have a place where people can find out a bit more about the journey, have a place where they can, together with their parents, together with their kids, can kind of work through this. And of course, I mean, the hopes is that would also drive awareness of, the products that our store offers.
Interesting. I think from what I saw and what I read, like Ruby, she herself writes some of those postcards with the clothes that you send out to your initial bunch of customers, right?
Yeah. Yes, she has written a lot. Her hand's getting quite tired. But slowly I've been able to grow the kind of the number of people that are able to contribute. So up until recently, it was a lot of running around, kind of talking to Ruby, like having Ruby talk to her friends and get them involved, or friends of mine, their kids getting involved. I've actually just recently been chatting with someone out in, I believe they're in Regina, that is also going to run this program with their kind of their like their support group for trans kids. So over time, I will have, the goal is to have thousands of these messages, which I also post online on an Instagram account as well.
Yeah, interesting. I really like how you started it. I think at a very global level, you involved 25 countries, people from 25 countries, when you were setting things up and running your initial campaigns and all.
Yeah. I mean, so it's 25 families. It was actually more like 3 countries. So we had someone from Australia, Canada, and the US. But certainly in terms of the consumers or customers of mine, it is very global. Now, 70% of sales are in the US, and there are 25% in Canada, but there's 5% that are kind of scattered throughout the world. And certainly there's a desire for me to focus more on countries in the southern hemisphere as we're going into, as they're going into their spring and then summer, and starting to think about swimwear, because there's a seasonality aspect of this.
Right. Interesting. Well, Jimmy, you are a serial entrepreneur, and Rubis, I think, is your 4th venture now.
That's right. Yeah, number 4.
Yeah. So your previous ventures have been in edutainment, fintech, and fashion. So how is Rubis like different from all these ventures? Like, are you taking a different approach here? I mean, in terms of industry, obviously it's a different industry, but like in terms of your approach and learning, are there like things that you are doing for the first time as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I would say there are 2 things. The first one is that I would say this is the first business where it's solving a problem that really hits close to home. and so I mean, effectively, I saw a gap. Like there's literally clothing I couldn't find for my daughter. I created a company to make that clothing, and so I'd say that it holds, I would say, a special significance, and is a really good kind of driver for entrepreneurs when the solution, the problem they're solving is going to help them. So that's made a big difference. And then I guess the other aspect is because it's a social impact business. I mean, this is the first. Okay. So there's a lot of things I'm learning in terms of the language I use when I communicate what I'm doing, ensuring, like, really always being on guard to ensure that I'm being as transparent as possible about how I'm operating.
Okay. And I think you did a lot of iterations with the product as well, right? Like to have the right product in place. Can you just like briefly walk us through that journey?
Yeah, I have to say, designing swimwear for kids is very challenging because it's actually very difficult to find models, people to try on your clothing. It's challenging. It's also because these kids, some of them are kind of blocking their puberty. That physiologically they may be developing differently, at the age of 11 or 12 than their cis friends or kids. And so I can't necessarily just get standard sizes and assume that they're going to work for what I'm trying to do. So it was just really challenging. One way I've done this is through this Facebook group, finding families that are in Toronto. So this Facebook group is it's mainly US and Canadian, and like I said, someone in Australia, but there are a nucleus of people in Toronto, and some of them have volunteered their kids to be models as well, so that we can do the fitting for them. But I'm really learning a lot in terms of product development. I mean, there are actually a lot of parallels to software development, which I've done most of my life, and the most important part is getting a product out as soon as possible for testing. But I was able to get my first prototype designed and find a manufacturer in Toronto. Actually, like, fortunately, I found one that was about 15 minutes away from my house. And it was just an iterative process, just like with software, where we tried a prototype. We would, my daughter was a model, and then a few of the other folks that I met, and they would try them on, and we would make a round of adjustments. And so we went through about 10 versions of the prototype before we found one that worked. I then basically shipped out 25 pairs. So before I was ready to get a larger quantity manufactured, I got 25 manufactured, and I sent them out to all these families to get their feedback, and then based on that made adjustments. Now, interestingly enough, the first time that I sent out those 25, I was completely off by an entire size. So there was almost no garments that fit those individuals, and so I had to coordinate people sending their pairs to other families, which is kind of nice, So I had a pair of swimwear go across the pond, like from Toronto to Australia, and then back from Australia back to the US. So that was kind of cool. And so each new product that I designed, so I'm working on one piece right now, will go through that sort of R&D process where I do at least one or two prototypes. I then find people to try it on, and get feedback, and then make the changes from there.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So although you have built and scaled companies in the past, I'm sure there would be some of the challenges that Rubis is facing right now, where you would be glad to get some help externally. Like at Epic, we are also trying to connect you with people who are sort of so-called experts in the industry and can help you. So are you looking for something like that as well right now? So
I'm always looking for help. So I think the areas where I would say I need the most help are in marketing, PR, how to effectively get your brand out and drive awareness and traffic. So it's something that it's an area where I would certainly say when I began my entrepreneurial journey, I knew absolutely nothing about. I know a lot more now. which is why I felt like I was able to start this business without bringing on a co-founder. But the reality is right now, it's very much bootstrapped. I don't have the resources at the moment or really desire yet to bring on, another team member, but certainly I do rely on either paid contractors or people, it could be free advice to make a move. I think as well, like right now, it's debatable whether I should really step on the gas at the moment for two reasons. Number one, I mean, just given where the pandemic is going in the US, I don't know if the time is right, and it might kind of fall on deaf ears. And then I could invest, I could overinvest at the wrong time. So that's kind of a big concern, and so why I'm kind of maybe we'll hold back a little bit until I kind of see where this goes.
Interesting. Jamie, this is such a beautiful story. I saw you speak for the first time with Ruby in a Tech Toronto event, and at that point in time, I was still building Epic. So that story prompted me to create a new list in my Trello board called companies to contact. I'd put Rubis on.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, there. Well, thanks a lot for sharing all the insights and for your time.
Great. Thank you so much for your time.